All right, Hugh Freeze had some interesting comments to say about the bye week, about his team, and of course, previewing the Deep South's oldest rivalry.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. And this is a bonus edition of the show, a quick live edition of the show, as Hugh Freeze just got done talking to the media. And I think he said a few interesting things that we will definitely spend some time on. One of the things, there are a few things that kind of have me scratching my head a little bit, and we'll definitely get to those as well. In his opening statements, he referred to this part of the season as like season 2, the second part of the season. Okay, great. And obviously excited to return back to Jordan-Hare Stadium. There was a lot of talk and a lot of like caveats made about whenever the question was about the offense, whether it was the running game or Jackson Arnold, or, overall, there were a few questions about pressure. And he added the caveats of, okay, the last 2 games were against 2 really good opponents. And like, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. And some people are going to take that as excuses. I'm not saying it's that, but I do wish he would quit talking about things in the past and talk about the now and the future. I don't know how intentional that is necessarily, but that seemed to be a thing again, even coming out of the bye week. So whatever. Talked about being excited to be back at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and obviously the environment and the atmosphere with Cam Newton's retirement, which is obviously going to be a big part of this, and the Auburn fan base is going to be electric. And he was asked about the recruiting elements to this, and obviously they're going to try to get a nice group there. He talked about not playing behind the chains, which is something, I mean, if you guys follow the show, we talk about it a ton. And I mean, if you watch the games, it's clearly an issue. And, he's like, well, there wasn't much, time off for the staff during the bye week because we were, prepping. And like, yeah, I would hope so. It's like the assumption is you're working hard. I don't know if that's really needed, but the assumption is that you're working hard. But thank you, I guess, for confirming that. Then he was asked about the offensive line and if there have been any like discussions about the offensive line, which there should be, right? And of course there has been. He quickly said Too Tall is going to get into the rotation. Unless I missed it, he did not say exactly where. I mean, the assumption is at left tackle, I'm assuming. I don't know if I love Too Tall as a left tackle. I do love Too Tall as an offensive lineman. I don't know if I love him as a left tackle, but that's okay. We'll see exactly what that looks like. And there's a lot of talk about self-scouting, and, some of that has to do with, personnel, and some of it has to do with execution and all of that. But then when he was asked about the offensive line situation, after saying, Too Tall is going to get into the rotation, he said, you can't get into 3rd and long consistently. Yeah, that's true. You can't get into 3rd and long consistently, for sure. And then kind of then reverted to the pass protection, saying that they could strain more. And remember, when he talks about strain, it means play until the whistle blows is kind of how he has described straining. Whenever he talks about we can strain more, it's like play through the whistle. They said that was an issue a few weeks ago. And so in practice, they have kept the whistle. They've blown the whistle later. So they finish these plays more. So that's what that means. And he said that the pass protection can strain more. They're not always going to win one-on-ones, but teams that win on 3rd down win games. That's true. Like, you didn't convert a 3rd down last game. And so like I'm glad that that's the emphasis. But it shouldn't get to this point. It shouldn't get to this point for you to start making assumptions about not playing behind the sticks and constantly finding yourself in third and long. Why do you have to lose 2 close games in order to get to that point? It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. He was asked what I thought was a really good question about Jackson Arnold, about does he play it too safe, too risk averse, I believe was the way the question was asked. And he was like, yeah, we talked about that and in film study. And it's just, he's so focused on not turning the football over, which once again, I mean, everything he said today is stuff that we've been saying for the last, week or so since the loss at Texas A&M. It's been, everything he said, with the exception of something he said about Xavier Chaplin, which I think is interesting. And we'll talk about that in a second. But he kept using the word freer. He wants Jackson to play freer and give our guys a chance. And I mean, that's been pretty similar for his messaging over the last several weeks. Do we see a change on that from a mentality standpoint? I hope so, guys, but I just have a hard time buying that you can make that switch mentally just because you had a bye week. I hope I'm wrong. But obviously that could make or break the game, if we're being 100% honest with you. He talked about Georgia's ability to adjust and gave, Kirby Smart a ton of credit, rightfully so. And said, hey, we're going to see some stuff that we haven't seen before. But then there were 2 things that he said that really kind of left me scratching my head a little bit. And once again, I'm going to be consistent here. I said, I'm never going to hold anything against the coach for being too honest with us. But I do think it's okay, if you're going to tell us this, why is it being done this way? So there's 2 things that left me scratching my head just a little bit. And I'm going live. We've got 180, almost 200 people in here. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on this as well. That's next right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners, Quo, formerly Open Phone, is the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before. It's just got a new name, and here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversion counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer. So no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. QUO, quo.com/lockedoncollege. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Line is now 4.5. Auburn 4.5-point dogs against the Bulldogs. If you're thinking, Auburn's going to win this game, go get on FanDuel. Or if you're hearing that, it's man, that line seems a little low. And you want to take Georgia, you certainly can. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started today. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. We'll spend a few minutes talking about Auburn and Baylor. That game got moved to Atlanta. I don't have a ton of info on that yet. That kind of happened while the press conference was going on, and Auburn actually just sent a release out on that. So we can go through that together in just a second. So there were 2 things that he said where I'm like, okay, all right. One of which he was asked about Horatio Fields, which is reasonable. And he said he's out 6 to 8 weeks. And then he's like, but I never really know what that means. And he added the caveat of is it 6 to 8 weeks till you can get back to practice? Is it 6 to 8 weeks until you're able to play and you're 100%? It's he added the caveat. But my thing is what do you mean you don't know that? You're telling me when you think about the great coaches in college football right now, you're telling me Kirby Smart wouldn't know that? You're telling me Dan Lanning wouldn't know exactly how long his number 3 receiver statistically when he went down was? That's strange to me. And the caveat that he added makes sense, but I thought that was interesting. Then he added also that everyone else is available health-wise, which is great. That's awesome. And then he was asked about Xavier Chaplin specifically at left tackle. Was there any discussion about making a change there on top of just, hey, Tutaw's going to get into the rotation? And he said that they did some evaluations on his hearing, and he's had a hard time hearing the cadence. And there's been some talk about, like, people being upset about, Auburn's cadence with the clap and all that. And does that even make sense in road situations? Like, I think you've got an argument there. But once again, should it take 2 losses for you to figure that out? I don't know. Worth asking. Yeah, if anybody had any takeaways from the presser, any quotes that stood out to them, let me know in the live chat for sure. Looking at the press release that Auburn just sent out, Auburn football to face Baylor in the 2026 Aflac kickoff game. So Auburn will host Baylor September 5th, 2026 in Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the nation's longest running. There's stuff about NIL in here. Creating its first of its kind opportunity for Auburn student athletes to engage in name, image, and likeness activations tied directly to ticket sales. Through a multi-million-dollar partnership, Peach Bowl Inc., via the Aflac kickoff game, will work with third-party entities to secure marketing assets and promotional appearances by Auburn student athletes, giving them meaningful visibility and new avenues to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. John Cohen said, quote, anytime we have the ability to advance Auburn student athletes' ability to earn third-party NIL compensation, we will take that opportunity. The exposure of playing on a national stage against a Power 4 opponent and one of the premier neutral site games in all the country will not only benefit our student athletes financially, but it will enhance their brands. This is not only a win for the Auburn student athletes, but for Auburn athletics. Cool. I think that makes sense. There's an opportunity for Auburn to get more NIL. I think that makes sense. I mean, if we had to, have a nitpick, is it's not at home, and you have, isn't it 5 brutal games on the road? Do I still have that graphic? Is this it? Yeah. So next year you're already out of Jordan-Hare Stadium, at Bama, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, at Mississippi State, at Tennessee. So, like, would you have wanted one more home game? I don't know. But yeah, the money makes sense. The money makes sense for sure. Oh, but it's a lot. They set up to $5 million, I think. So it's a lot of money. Hopefully it works out. That's great. Cool. Any thoughts or questions about Auburn versus Georgia before we wrap up this quick live? Sam says Hugh Freeze seemed a little frustrated being asked about Texas A&M. I get it's no fun, but he should answer to that performance. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he brought it up on his own too. I mean, I think he was asked questions and found a way to bring up the last 2 games, which I don't love, but I mean, it's consistent for sure. Yeah, and Eric is saying Aflac is probably paying a bunch to have the game in Atlanta. Yeah, for sure. And I guess they'll pay directly tied to ticket sales. I mean, that's a big deal. That's going to be a very large number for sure. So, all right, just wanted to put together a quick live just to react to everything Hugh Freeze said at this presser. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked on Auburn.